Viewers, welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about everything current in the law of personal injuries and obviously of importance to you, the viewer. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer with 30 years experience. With me today I've got Nunzio Tartaglia, a partner in a law firm in insurance law. Good evening, Nunz.
Evening, Tony. Evening, viewers. Welcome.
And a senior lawyer in a law firm in insurance law, Jessica Rosla. Good evening, Jess.
Evening, Tony. Evening, viewers.
Tonight, viewers, we're going to be giving you an update on aviation and personal injury law, so stay tuned. Very riveting episode.
Before we kick off though, Tony, what's in the news this week?
Well, there's been a lot of stories. The one that I want to turn to first is who's driving us mad, and there's a call for legal drag races. They want to use some of our tracks like Sandown and Calder to give people a chance to get it out of their system. What do you think about that?
To be honest with you, I'm not comfortable with it because I understand what they're trying to do, trying to confine it to a
safe environment.
A safe environment, but at the same time, I think you're also promoting the fact that that you can get in your hotted up cars and go for broke, as they say. So, it's a double-edged sword trying to protect the residents and helping them out, but also I think you're promoting drag racing. If that makes sense.
Well, you're on the fence, Jess. What's your view? I seem to think that it probably can't be a bad thing because they're going to do it anyway. So get it out of your system in an environment where it's safe.
Yeah. Look, I tend to agree with you, Tony. I think it is a good opportunity to have an allocated spot for people to, like you said, get it out of their system. But at the same time, you've got to weigh up that a lot of people don't like to play by the rules and will likely keep going. So.
And where does it stop then? One area, say Sandown gets allocated, then another area somewhere else that they start doing racing, and
Sandown's a good start because it picks up two ends of the globe in Victoria.
And look, you want to confine that. I can understand that. While we're on traffic offences, though, Tony, this is an unexpected article I've put in tonight. What's your view on Mr. Luke Hodge, captain of the Hawthorn Footy Club?
Oh, look, I don't agree with what he's done.
First, we should say what exactly happened to him.
Oh, well, Luke Hodge was had a few drinks with some mates in circumstances where he shouldn't have been because. He said the evidence as we know it is that he stopped drinking 2 hours before he drove, and he shouldn't have driven anyway because if in doubt, anyone that's responsible, especially in that position, should have thought, look, let's play it safe, get someone to give me a lift or grab a cab. And it was 1:20 in the morning, so it was pretty early in the morning.
I don't know, he's been suspended, finals coming up, it's not really captain worthy, is it?
Well, you can hardly talk, being an Essendon supporter, but at the end of the day, he's been a fantastic leader of the Hawthorn Footy Club. I'm not happy about what's happened, but I'm pretty confident that he's really remorseful about what's gone down. I think he'll learn from it. It might be a message to everyone else in positions of authority out there. What do you think, Jess?
I suppose, Tony, he's only human, and humans are capable of making mistakes.
We can't condone drink driving.
That's right. Look, it's been blown out of proportion, I agree, but the fact is that he's a public figure and needs to be careful. So.
Well, Luke, on that note, make sure you get out there and get best on ground Friday night, buddy. That's the only way you're going to get the mug off your back. Anyway, let's keep moving. Cancer-stricken star sues Shannon Doherty. This is a really interesting topic here, because it's at a time when her insurance had lapsed and she wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, so she's suffering breast cancer, and obviously, that treatment is expensive, and she's suing her former business partners for basically failing to ensure that her health insurance was current and not expired, and saying that basically that delayed treatment has now impacted on her health, which. Look, it's a tough one because look, there is a public system that you can use. So I'm not.
Not in America, no.
Really?
I think in America you need to actually pay for your treatment.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tony. But
there's no public system.
Yeah. But the thing that concerns me with this, and look, at the risk of sounding unpopular for Shannon Doherty fans, is just that. Well, why couldn't she pay for the treatment even with the knowledge? But you would think someone with that kind of.
I'm not sure how financial she is.
Yeah.
I mean, she was pretty big 20 years ago in 902.
Tony, you watched Beverly Hills 90210?
No.
That's huge.
No. Wasn't my cup of tea, but anyway.
Look, I think it's a bit of a long bow to draw when you consider, well, we don't know a lot about the facts, but we need to know how long the delay was in terms of diagnosing the cancer and whether it would have made a substantial difference.
I think that the key message for viewers in this is that don't take risks when it comes to any insurances, like whether it's income protection, life insurance, TPD cover, health insurance, private health, because something like this can happen,
Yeah.
and you don't have that luxury of funding your treatment. It's a really important message.
And if in doubt, make sure you get proper advice. But more importantly, make sure you don't mislead the insurers as well, because
certainly.
there's a lot of instances where people have failed to disclose information that probably wouldn't have affected the policy, but then when it comes time to claim, they reject the claim because they say it was a substantive non-disclosure.
That's right. I think people think that all these insurers that are asking questions about your health are trying to probe and find something else that's there, but it's more they just want to have the full picture.
Yeah.
They've got it, they make the call on whether you've got insurance or not, move on. So.
I got this interesting story about outdoor dining smoke ban where you can't smoke anywhere anymore, and they're going to fine you $758. Well, we've seen what's happening in the penal system. They tried to ban smoking and they ripped the place apart. What do you think, Jess?
Look, I think from what I understand, the main concern is for businesses losing customers.
I think so.
And hence they're rolling out the scheme over the next, year and a half now, I think it is, Tony. I think it's a good thing because it's a reflection of the government taking, I guess, the matter seriously and protecting other consumers who don't otherwise smoke. But at the same time, where's the balance?
I think we're in a society where you can't breathe anymore without getting walked.
Well, look, I think it's basically come to the point where forget about smoking unless you're in your own private home and maybe on the street in your car. You really can't smoke anywhere, to be honest with you. That's just the way of the world.
I don't agree with this for the simple fact that you've got, hoteliers and restaurateurs that have set up designated areas where people can smoke. I think it's taken it a bit too far. I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with smoking full stop.
There could be issues late at night. Look, those beer gardens that people smoke at night, and obviously they're grogged up with alcohol. Yeah. Now they're going to go on the street and do that. That actually could promote.
That's even worse.
It actually could pose dangers. So I wouldn't be surprised once the bans kick in if we don't hear about issues outside of these. I
don't know if they've really turned their mind properly to this.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in Germany in 2006, I was smoking cigars in the restaurants.
Oh, wow.
Anyway. This is an interesting case. We're back to this thing involving the Langham knots.
Yeah, so we finally found the source of the basically the outbreak, and it's raw egg mayonnaise that was made on site, Jess. So it's good that they've done the investigation, found out exactly what the cause of it is. But look, from a legal point of view, the fact is they've made it. It's contaminated. They're in trouble.
Yeah.
And the chicken was involved. Raw egg. Viewers, we've got to go to a sponsors break. After the break, we're going to give you an update on aviation law and how it affects you. Viewers, welcome back to the show. We're going to be bringing you an update on aviation and personal injury law and how it impacts on the viewers. Now, this is on the back of the MH370 incident where the plane was shot out of the sky by the Russians, Ukrainians, who knows who it was. But the key to it is this. For people that are on the plane, there's law that covers them, but there's also instances where people on the ground, there was baggage and body parts that flew out of the air, and sorry, I don't mean to sound so gory about it, but the people on the ground would probably want to sue too, and the law we're looking at the moment deals with those issues as well. Now, Jess, the Damage by Aircraft Act 1999, Section 10.1, what does it basically tell us?
So effectively, Tony, the main concept is that if someone suffers personal injury from an impact as a result of, a plane crash as such, then they can claim damages for that injury.
And Nunz, we know the law that if you're on a plane and you get injured in circumstances where it's not your fault...
Yep, it's just an accident. Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
But the accident's not your fault.
Yep, yep.
The law's strict in the sense that the carrier, the airplane company's responsible for your damages, correct?
Yeah, effectively, it's really, you'd say it's a strict liability regime where it's really an assessment. The damages aren't as, you'd say, attractive as like a normal common law in Victoria, but it's really strict liability. It's an assessment of what your injuries are worth.
Okay. Now, the significance of this piece of legislation is that it covers everything else that's not picked up by the Civil Aviation Carriers Liability Act, which is a law that governs people getting injured on planes.
Yeah, embarking, disembarking and accidents on planes.
Yes, yes. Now, Nunz, these amendments to the DBA Act in 2012, what's their significance?
Well, they're skewed towards more of a negligence argument, Tony, because they've allowed one that they can argue a right of a reduction of damages by virtue of contributory negligence. So effectively, if the plaintiff or the injured person has contributed to their own accident, they can say, well, it should be discounted accordingly.
Yep.
So it's got a sort of common law negligence, viewpoint on it. Secondly, also the potential defendant can also ask for contribution from another party if someone else is at fault for those injuries. So it feels like common law.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So and the main one is obviously that you can't sue for mental injury if that's the only injury that you've got.
Okay, well, that's a pretty important
That's the most important one.
Okay. Now, Jess, let's go back to the first situation. You're on an aeroplane, right? You're minding your own business. Someone opens the storage area up top, drops their suitcase on your head. What's your rights?
So, Tony, in that case, being a passenger on the plane, I could then bring an action pursuant to the Civil Aviation Carriers Liability Act, as long as I can establish that it was an accident, effectively.
In other words, it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault.
You didn't drop the case on your head.
That's right. And it was an unusual circumstance, so to speak.
Okay. Assuming the case hit you in the head and you didn't sustain physical injuries and it was only a psychological injury.
Yeah, so like a traumatic reaction to the... In that case, Tony, I couldn't claim any damages for an injury.
Do you agree with that?
Look, I actually don't, Tony, because I think it's unfair. Because if some people, you've got to take your plaintiff as you find them. Some people react differently to situations, and if you have a psychological reaction because of that, why should you be restricted from suing?
Yeah,
I don't think it's fair.
No, I agree. I think it's because most accidents, I'd imagine, in the air, there'd be a significant psychological trauma attached to it.
Yeah, certainly.
All right, let me change the permutation of those facts.
Yep.
Assuming, and now this sounds morbid and it's not meant to be, a piece of luggage has come out of the MH370, hit the ground next to you, you haven't sustained a physical injury, you've got a mental injury, not severe psych, because you're standing there thinking, I could have been killed.
Yep.
Have you got a claim?
Well, by virtue of the 2012 amendments to the Damage by Aircraft Act, unfortunately now you don't, because you are restricted from suing for any mental injury unless there's a bodily injury that's related to it. So they've made it almost impossible for anyone to sue for just psychological injuries. And I think that's a prime example, and it's inherently unfair.
Oh, I think it is. I think it's bizarre.
And it's not like it's... The thing that annoys me about this issue is that it's not like it's a common occurrence. It's not a slip and fall in a supermarket where you get them every day of the week. So I don't think it's going to break the system. You're not going to be... insurance premiums aren't going to go through the roof. So I just think it's really not providing access to justice for a lot of people.
Yep. I agree.
I feel pretty strongly about that.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. Part 4 of the Wrongs Act. This is pretty significant because it picks up intrastate flights.
Yep.
Okay? Now, there's a lot of instances where people get injured in these interstate flights. What are the main changes to the Wrongs Act and onset impacts on people?
So the Wrongs Act at the moment is actually a little bit, I suppose, better or more attractive in terms of rights, because you can currently sue for mental injury. So it's effectively, it mirrors the Damage by Aircraft Act in terms of what needs to occur and your rights and so forth. But mental injury is included. However, there's proposed changes to the Wrongs Act, Jess, and you might be able to expand a bit more on it, where they actually want to basically bring it in line with the Damage by Aircraft Act, and once again, you're restricted from suing for mental injury. And I just don't get it.
And the Commonwealth legislation takes precedence over the state legislation, Jess.
That's right, Tony. But I guess the key point with the Wrongs Act is that it covers a very small class of individuals. So as you rightly said, it's intrastate flights.
But there's a lot of those.
Yeah, that's right. But it's not as, I guess, common as your other circumstances where you might otherwise sustain injury. But it is very unfair that you can't claim damages for pure mental harm in circumstances where that might be your only injury, or there may have been an accident where you've suffered a traumatic reaction and it takes a while to overcome that.
Of course.
And you just don't have that avenue. Well, you won't have that avenue anymore once the changes are brought in.
Well, I find it surprising in this day and age where everyone understands psych injuries a lot better than what we did, say, 10 to 20 years ago, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
That now they're trying to exclude them all. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
I really can't believe that.
You make a good point. You think it'd be work in reverse where, if, initially you can't sue for... It's gone from you can sue for mental injury to you can't. It should have really been the other
And
way.
society does understand mental injuries a lot better than what we did, say, 15, 20 years ago, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's just outrageous. Look, the important thing I want to make too is this. If you sustain an injury in circumstances involving aircraft, you've only got 2 years to sue.
Yeah, and
people don't realise that.
Yeah, look, and Tony, it's absolutely strict. So under, say, Wrongs Act common law, you can get extensions. You can say that I wasn't aware of my rights until X time.
Yeah.
Under, airline cases, it's it's 2 years. Forget about it any more than that. So it's crucial that you see a lawyer as soon as something's occurred in that regard. And because it's strict, there's no threshold in there's not much threshold, so you can.
You don't really need to gather the evidence to establish fault and the like, as you otherwise would.
And there's no extensions.
Yeah.
Once you get the 2 year mark, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Viewers, we've got to go to a sponsors break. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll take up this debate about the aviation legislation. Viewers, welcome back to the show. We're talking about this very interesting topic about your rights under aviation law. Now, what are the significant differences between domestic and international?
Oh, the significant, I suppose, difference would be the compensation side of things. Internationally, if you have an accident, say, going from Dubai to Melbourne, you can still sue in Australia and say Victoria, but your damages effectively are just capped just over around 200 grand. There's exceptions to go over that, but as we've been seeing with MH370, it's difficult.
But if it's intrastate, that is between Victoria and Queensland, for example?
If it's interstate, then you're looking at around 500,000 as the cap. So there are differences in the damages components.
But Jess, in some instances, under the Warsaw and Montreal Convention, if you can prove liability or negligence on a third party, the cap of 200 can be exceeded.
That's right.
Yes.
So if you can prove that it was willful or an intentional act that's caused the accident, Tony, then you can argue that you're entitled to more than 200,000. That's right.
And that's a big issue. That's why the fan was for 370 saying, well, where's our money?
Yeah. The important part is the country where you're travelling to or of origin needs to be a signatory to the Montreal Convention, which most countries are. So more often than not, it's not really an issue in terms of your main paths of travel, but it's worth noting. Yeah,
it's a really, really complicated area of law, and that's why it's probably better that we go straight to this case of Pel-Air, the Pel-Air crash that happened on the 18th of November 2009. Jess, you want to give me the facts of this case?
Yeah, certainly, Tony. So in this case, a nurse by the name of Miss Casey and a doctor by the name of Dr. David Helm were travelling from Samoa, an island off New Zealand, to Australia with a stopover in Norfolk Island. The purpose of the journey was to transport a seriously ill patient to receive treatment back in Australia. In transit, Tony, the plane unfortunately went through some bad weather.
And it was a brutal storm.
Yeah, brutal storm.
And that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, causing the plane to crash, and unfortunately, the plane crashed in shark-infested waters. The pilot horrifically abandoned the crew and escaped, but somehow all 6 people on the plane managed to stay alive.
Where'd the pilot go?
Swimming.
I don't know.
But
he just abandoned
talk about bad luck and good luck. This is an extraordinary story, isn't it?
Yes, reading it, I couldn't believe that they survived.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's incredible.
survived. And, the injuries are, they're serious, but not like to
Oh,
the
they're pretty serious.
Yeah, but they went to the
could have
point.
been killed.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
They could have been killed
By
from the crash, and then there was sharks everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
I think they were in the waters for about 90 minutes before they got saved. So they were lucky too, because there was some a boating vessel that was nearby. So they got very lucky.
Must have had some feline genes in their bodies, 9 lives.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just say the nurse and the doctor brought proceedings against the airline company.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have flown in those circumstances.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, the case was won, but it was really splitting hairs, wasn't it, Nunzio?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the big issue in this case, because Miss Casey, who was on the plane and obviously is subject to this action, suffered, various physical injuries, but also suffered psychological injuries, including PTSD and chronic pain, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the issue was, because under the Montreal Convention, you can't sue for your psychological injuries, was whether she could sue for those and get compensated. And that was really the commentary in the case.
Yeah.
And she got up because they said she has physical injuries.
Yeah, so what they did, Tony, it was very clever. Her lawyers did a good job at obtaining evidence to say that her psychological injuries had a purely organic basis, which effectively means that there was underlying findings to demonstrate that her brain had been affected and had caused the changes in her psychologically. And that's how she got compensated for her psychological injuries, independent of her physical injuries.
And it was a very important distinction because based on what the family members said, a lot of her problems were psychological in nature.
Yeah.
Because, she wasn't the same person anymore.
Yeah.
After the accident, she just was not the same individual.
Yeah.
She'd been changed for life.
They described her as a ghost.
Yeah, she was a
living
ghost.
Yeah.
So
Look, that's why they pursued it so heavily. And look, I said it would have been sad if for some reason she didn't succeed, because, if there's no physical injuries involved, she wouldn't have won this case.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it.
That's right.
Going through
As
such a horrific accident, landing in the water, being in the water for 90 minutes, no money.
Yeah, and I think that point is being picked up upon by government. I think Nick Xenophon wants to introduce a private members bill to try and bring about those changes, to recognise that, Nunzio, that if you suffered purely psych, you wouldn't have that avenue.
you see a lot of cases like this. Clients in circumstances like this can't afford to wait, can they?
No, look, there's times of the essence. You need to see a lawyer straight away. And we're not dealing with just one piece of legislation. You've got international conventions, you've got injuries you can't sue for, can sue for, you've got different caption damages, you've got different ways of proving fault. It is a minefield, and to be frank, in the hands of a lay person, it's just not going to work, and you need a lawyer.
And not only that, part of the reason why you need to see a lawyer is because the way these injuries are documented could impact on whether you get any compensation.
Yeah.
Because, see, sadly, we do split hairs when you talk about psychological injuries.
Right.
You've got the secondary and physical components. You know, secondary, you know...
As a consequence of a physical injury, and then, that's right.
So it's so important that you get advice, and from people that know what they're talking about.
Of course.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the Montreal Convention and Warsaw Convention. Mm-hmm. That is the legislation where all the airlines, all the countries have agreed they abide by it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so that it avoids international conflict as to where you go, which court to sue.
Yeah, you can sue into your own state and move on, which is, look, it's got practicalities on it, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Just quickly, Jess, many years ago, a plane, one of those big planes went over Essendon, going to Essendon Airport, crashed into a house.
Okay.
Pardon the pun, Grave Street. No one was injured, but you'd imagine the occupants and also the people on the plane would have been pretty seriously affected psychologically, correct?
Yeah, you would think so, yeah.
With these amendments, chances are they wouldn't get a cent.
Look, the only thing they could potentially sue under would be the Wrongs Act, but they want to change the Wrongs Act to say no mental injury. So technically, you're right, Tony.
So let's hope Nick Xenophon passes his bill.
Let's hope so.
To stop the amendments from going through.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in circumstances like that, where people on the plane and people on the ground would have life-lasting injuries, they wouldn't get compensated.
That's right.
Jess, thanks for coming on board.
Thanks
Anything
for
else
having
you'd like to add?
No, Tony, it's been an interesting episode, and look, any issues at all with regard to these accidents, please give us a call at Wiki Carbone.
Viewers, thanks for watching the show. Stay tuned for future episodes. Go to YouTube for our past episodes. Go to our social media platforms, and always remember to stay safe.